New this morning, the state is moving closer to putting a formal set of homeschooling regulations in place.
Lawmakers here in Connecticut's House worked late into the night to pass a bill that supporters say will protect children. Your reporter Taylor Knight is live outside the Capitol in Hartford, breaking down how this would change homeschooling here in Connecticut. Taylor.
Well, lawmakers were here at the Capitol until almost midnight last night voting on this bill, and they were not alone. Parents who homeschool their children were also here saying that they feel targeted by this bill. Right now, Connecticut is the only state without any oversight laws when it comes to homeschooling. The bill passed by the state's House of Representatives last night aims to change that. The measure would create a formal state framework for what it calls equivalent instruction or homeschooling. Under this bill, parents would have to tell the school district whether their child will attend public school, private school, or be educated at home. Families using homeschooling would also have to show a demonstration of instruction each school year, which could include a portfolio of student work, test results, or other academic records. The bill also requires a DCF check when a parent wants to withdraw a child from public school to homeschool. If a parent has an active case with the Department of Children and Families or is on the DCF abuse registry, they would not be able to homeschool. But opponents say this bill goes too far and unfairly targets homeschooling families. This bill will now go to the state Senate for a vote, and that's expected to happen next week. Your reporter live in Hartford, Taylor Knight, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.